Isaiah Falls has recently become one of my favorite R&B artists, and the production on his new Drugs and Lullabies mixtape really inspired me to get out of my dark R&B comfort zone and get into this more bright and sexy sounding style of R&B. The melodies on that project perfectly combine this old school R&B kind of sound with a more modern approach, and in this video I want to break down one of my samples in that style so you can see what's important to get that kind of sound and make these samples yourself. So first of all, let's talk about the sound selection. You pretty much want it to sound like an old R&B record, so you'll have to go for organic and natural kind of sounds. I like to stick with mostly keys and guitars and stay away from very harsh synthetic sounds. So for this sample I started off with some chords on the keys, and for this style I think it's really important to get the chords right. You want to stick with the typical soulful R&B kind of chords. I mainly used minor 9 and minor 7 chords. And I made sure to really play around with the voicings of the chords to get like the top line right. Because when you hear a progression, your brain mainly picks up the highest note of each chord. Of course, all the notes have to be right and you like feel each note of the chord. But usually you hear the highest notes as like a melody. So with that in mind, I came up with this chord progression. For the sound, I layered an electric piano from Contact and a Rhodes one-shot. And for the effects, I mainly made sure to give it that drowned out R&B kind of sound. For that I used guitar rig on the water preset and some saturation to give it a more destroyed kind of sound, and then I took out lots of the highs and added some fruity flangers for a more moody sound. Then I added a bass line. As always with my samples I kept it very simple. I used a pretty acoustic sounding one shot, and then I just added a few ghost notes to add a bit of bounce and make it feel more like a bass line that was played in live. After that I added a guitar layer, and I wanted to really go for that typical R&B wah guitar kind of sound. And to get that tone I mainly used guitar rig on the funky auto wah preset. I only tweaked a few settings from the amp, and after that we just have some chorus, reverb and EQ. First I just wanted to layer the chords with the guitar. I didn't want lots of low frequencies for the guitar, so I only used the 4 high strings. Then I added a little guitar melody, and for these kind of guitar riffs you really have to spend some time playing around and finding the perfect pocket. You don't want to overdo it, and you pretty much just want to add the perfect melody at the perfect time. I think what's really important for that is to keep the melodies simple, but make it sound interesting and soulful with the way you're playing it, rather than using tons of notes or crazy melodies. So the melody I came up with is basically just this. But I just tried to play it in a more sexy way by, for example, muting the notes a bit and sliding around a lot. Every second time it plays I just added one lower note at the end of the phrase. But to add some more variation I used this pitch pedal from Guitar Rig, which basically just pitches the guitar, and I automated it so it comes in about halfway, which gives a really beautiful harmony to the riff. So since I was going for that old R&B song kind of sound, I wanted to add some vocals. If you know me and my channel, you know that I can't sing at all. And I actually tried to sing in some vocals for this, but I ended up sounding absolutely horrific. So sometimes you just have to accept that you can't make everything from scratch. So I found some vocals on Tracklib. They are made by this producer. I am not sure how to pronounce his name, probably unknown. I'm sorry if that's wrong. But yeah, the vocals sound like this.
I just wanna break your heart. Don't touch me, I won't go that far. Baby, I will go to war with you.
So the vocals are in F minor, but we are working in B minor, which means that I had to pitch the vocals up 6 semitones. And the problem with that was that it really sounded like these chipmunk kind of vocals, where you can really tell that they are pitched up. So to fix that, I used the Stretch Pro pitching mode. So like that, I could pitch it up to the right key, but keep the formants pitched down. And that way we can keep the more natural sound of the vocals. Then of course I sliced it up a bit and picked the parts that sounded the best with the sample. And for effects I kept it very simple, just some EQing, a bit of reverb and some fruity flangers. And now we already have a pretty nice sample. It's really full already, it has nice chords, it has enough melody elements. So now we only have to enhance the sample and give it more depth. We don't want to add more melodies or anything that stands out too much, because that would just clash with the elements that we already have. So instead we just want to add little accents and embellishments and pretty much just build an atmosphere and put the sample into the right scenery. For that I started off by adding the most cliché and cheesy R&B elements that I could think of. For these samples, just the right amount of cheesiness can perfectly give that R&B mood. So I added a cute little snap as a snare, some chimes, a very quiet string layer, and this very simple melody with this sparkly bell sound. To finish off that section, we just have some vinyl noise, a few slices of a percussion loop, and a little hi-hat loop. For the next section I took out the vocals and the guitar melodies, and that gives us lots of space to introduce some new elements. First I grabbed my guitar again with the same effects, and I played in a new melody which is even simpler than the first one. For that section I wanted to add a bit more energy and rhythm with the instruments, and for that I added another very simple guitar layer, just playing the chords as rhythmic stabs, and I also added a few more notes in the bass line. For the last element, I wanted to bring in one more thing that just screams R&B, which is the Sine Pad or lead kind of sound. I used this one shot and I made it slide a bit by using the pitch envelope. I just played some simple chords with it and added some very subtle slides. For the effects on this, we have some chorus and some flangers to make it sound a bit more interesting, and then some mellify and saturation to make it a bit more gritty and make it stand out more, and then of course some EQ. Then I used another very similar one shot and I used that for a melody. I approached that melody just like the guitar melody earlier, trying not to overdo it and find the perfect melody for the perfect pocket. I'm not the best at playing the keys, so I just tried to come up with some melodies for a few minutes and I recorded all of that. And then I picked the best parts from that, rearranged them and just puzzled together a beautiful melody. For the effects on that we have some chorus, reverb, delay. For the last part I didn't add anything new, I just took out lots of the elements to take out most of the energy and just let the sample fade out beautifully. At the end I just pitched down everything one semitone and that's a full sample. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this could help you or at least inspire you to make your own sample like this. Let me know if you have any tips for this kind of style because I'm pretty new to it as well. Also, I'll try to be more active on YouTube again. I couldn't really post for a while because I had my exams, then I was on vacation, and then my PC actually died. But when you see this video, the computer is definitely working again, and I'll try to get back to one video every Sunday. So if you have any requests, any video ideas, anything you want to see from me, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you next time.